So I had the pleasure of watching another video with Cenk and Francesca. And again, he's making this very ridiculous argument that Anna has also made. And I'm here to debunk the ridiculous argument. He stated that something's changed, right? There's something strange in the neighborhood with MAGA. And he keeps highlighting things like, for example, the latest example, there's some kind of revolt against Elon. Of course, he doesn't want to talk too much about what they're revolting about, what their positions are, or what they're pushing for. But he points out this is a new MAGA. Before they were a monolith, now there's different factions and they're willing to rebel. If you were a hysterical MSNBC addicted liberal, then back in 2016, 2017, you probably had a cartoonish view of MAGA. And you probably viewed them as a bunch of clones, right? A solid monolith, 100% behind Trump, no matter what, right? No opposition. No one's allowed to say anything negative about Trump. That's probably how you would describe them. But the reality is, for those of us that live in reality, and people like Cenk, who does politics so he would know better, that was not real, right? There was never a time where MAGA was this literal monolith. There was always factions, there was always pushback. What Anna and Cenk keep highlighting is nothing new. It's the same MAGA that it's always been, and there's different components to it as well. Do you remember the time when Ben Shapiro called out Trump and went after Trump? He even made a video after January 6th, comparing it to 9/11. Was that the beginning of this new wave? Most of the people who are close to Trump in the beginning rebelled against Trump. The future vice president called it the potential next Hitler, or new Hitler, right? And there were others who referred to him as such that are now allies. Stefanik had a lot of really bad things to say about him. So there was always a sort of two-faced position from the thought leaders, right, in the MAGA movement. Now, they're playing a game. They know that they're being dishonest, and they're defending dishonesty. They're defending corruption, but they have to pretend like it's actually fine, right? So if things get bad enough, they will go and do their thing, to save face and be like, well, this is too far, bro. But it's meaningless. They do one little video, they do one little statement, and then it's right back to MAGA for life, right? That's because of the financial incentive, right? So those are the YouTubers and influencers. So they have always been pushing back and rebelling. They were never, ever 110% or 100% MAGA and everything. Trump, that was never the case. Only hysterical liberals ever thought that. Cenk definitely didn't think that because he does politics for a living, so he knows better. He knows that is not the reality, right? They behave almost like a monolith, and the net effect might be they might as well be a monolith, but they're never actually a monolith, right? So pointing out people saying, hey, this is too far or whatever, like that was always there, right? But what's really important is what's the net effect? Do they really do some pushback? Let me give you another example. Elon Musk. He took over Twitter, talked about free speech, and then he would go and censor journalists, people who criticized him, right? They push back, right? They were right-wingers that were pushing back. They were saying, well, it's not what I expected from him. I really thought he was serious about it, whatever. And then he just goes on, continues, posting stuff, MAGA stuff. And then they're just like, well, he's one of us. Okay, whatever. Right? It never amounts to anything, right? And then he does it again. He keeps violating the things that they claim to care about. And then some people will do this kind of like, well, but it's not a rebellion, and it's not new. It's not new. There's a new faction of MAGA that now they're willing to talk about. They were always doing that from day one. The problem is that it was meaningless, and it was fleeting, right? They would do it just to save face because things would get so bad that it looks bad, so they gotta be like, well, I'm a principled person, and I'm not afraid to say, well, Trump went too far. And then, 2 days later, they're back in the red hats, and they're MAGA, right? Influencers, of course. Do one little video, well, Trump is this and that, right? Then by the next morning, they post some videos again. Yeah, MAGA for life! Anna and Cenk are on some bullshit, talking about this new MAGA whatever. And then every example they point out is not unique. They were always pushing back on Trump. They were always pushing back on every single person that he's talking about. There was always somebody in MAGA that didn't like Liz Cheney or whoever. They're not clones. They're human beings, right? And I know the net effect is like they might as well all believe the same thing, but that was never literally true. They had differences of opinion, and they were willing to push back. The problem is that the pushback was worthless and fleeting. That was the problem, right? The problem is not that they didn't push back, is that any pushback they didn't amount to anything. There's no amount of violations of free speech that Elon Musk could do that MAGA is going to be like, well, that's it. Elon Musk is a fraud, and then officially treat him the way they treat someone. Let's say a Democrat does something like that, right? That'll be it. That's it. I don't want to hear anything else from them. They are here and forever a fraud. Elon Musk and anybody else who's willing to just worship at the altar of MAGA, You get a zillion lives. You can violate every principle. You can literally scam Trump supporters and still be a major icon in the MAGA movement. All sins will be forgiven as long as you worship at the altar of MAGA. I could be a pedo. I could go rob a bank, right? I could do whatever I want to do. I mean, literally have someone who basically assaulted a child, right? And all they got to do is, oh, I'm a Christian now, and this and that, and MAGA, this, and Trump is great for the country. And all is forgiven, right? You could be good friends with a sex trafficker and win your election easily. And I'm not talking about Trump, but I am talking about Florida. Right? So every time you hear Cenk and Anna talking about this, I had a neighbor, and then the guy was a Trump supporter, he was the nicest guy, and I didn't know they had nice people that like Trump. Like, what in the actual fuck? This is the largest progressive news network. This is what they've been doing for over a decade. And y'all don't know that MAGA's always been this way? People been donating to your channel, supporting you, trusting in your viewpoint, and this is your low IQ analysis? MAGA has changed. You really didn't know MAGA was doing this all along? Cenk? Or you want us to believe that? This is the Baby channel. The Baby in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.